SketchUp to Lumion Interior Daytime Scene. In this tutorial I will show you how to make a good and acceptable living room rendering. I will be using the Lumion grid lines or the rule of thirds. This compositional elements should be placed along these lines or their intersections. The idea is aligning a subject with these points creates more tension, energy, and interest in the composition than simply centering the subject. I will also using a template for the portrait image with a golden ratio composition. Let's get started. In your 3D model and while making it in SketchUp, I recommend to insert all the material before rendering it to Lumion. In this way you already finished to conceptualize your design and it is easy for you to finalize it Lumion. In normal office workflow, the interior designer or the architect will give a mood board or pieces of images that they want to make for the client presentation. On this tutorial, I already researched in the internet and downloaded similar furnitures in 3D warehouse. I will be using a color palette to set the tone in the image. Color coordination is important in every image. It will have a good comprehensive output and to avoid conflicts on the idea that you are aiming. In interior, one of the important assets is the accessories. Do not make an interior with furnitures only. Accessories play a very important role in completing and paying off the design. This is where we add the finishing touches, bring out the owner's personality and create the desired textures, shapes and colors to complete the design. Open Lumion and insert your model. First thing to do is set up your camera location and angle. Go to photo and adjust the camera. In photo mode, you will see a grid lines. This is called the rule of thirds. Use this lines as a guide to make a good composition. Click to custom style and select interior. It has already a good quality set up. But in this image, I have to adjust the sliders as I see fit in my concept. In this first camera setup, I will use a one-point perspective view. This will give me a good wide angle for the whole area. In this view you have to align the horizontal line and make my model straight as possible. It will give also a good balance and proportion in my scene. For lighting, I will only use real skies. This gives a natural light and smooth shadows. I purposely open the sliding door to light to come in, and will give also a warm and dynamic effect. Go to build mode and modified all your materials. Because of the process that I already established my materials in SketchUp, it is easier for me to adjust the effects to make it more realistic. Adjust the sliders properties for each material as you see fit. Don't forget to add a little bit of weathering and edges for some materials. After modifying my materials and finished my main model, it is time to make the background. I insert landscape entourage that is cohesive with my concept. At his current state the background is very strong, no depth and taking away the viewer's attention to my main subject, that is why I adjusted to fog slider. The fog slider is very helpful to make the background soft and light, without losing the character of the background elements. Adjust the color correction. In this properties, you can adjust the color temperature, brightness, contrast, saturation, and additional shades to the effects on the image. This FX parameters is very important. This gives you additional filter effect and realism on different moods you want to achieve. To make my image more interesting, I added volumetric sunlight with the combination of God rays. This will create soft distribution of the lights entering in the room. To make it more softer, I added bloom effects soften the overall lighting in the image. After I finished the first image with one-point perspective view, the other interior image composition is detail shot. Detail shot can be image with any subject matter that is small size or small in overall relation to the general subject. Detail shots often tell the story of the situation by focusing on a relatively small portion of it. In this composition, I use the golden ratio. This is a useful guide to compose and create a balance to the picture. In this tutorial, I use an image overlay FX and insert an PNG image, with the golden ratio on a portrait position. I made 3 different PNG format images with different positions of the golden ratio. In this way, I have the flexibility to compose my image. The fourth one was a plain PNG. After I use the guide, I just replace the clear PNG format. Important tip. Treat every images as their own composition. Some effects from the other images that you have done before may not suitable for the next one. You have to adjust the effects that is best on that particular image. Use depth of field. Important concept to understand and can make your images stand out. In this image, my main subject is the paintings on the wall. I use the middle table as my foreground and framing. I use depth of field to blur my foreground, so that my viewer can focus on the main subject. One important tip. If you are presenting to a client with your ideas, I recommend to make multiple shots images. They can help you explain information more coherently, which makes presenting easier for you and learning easier for the client. They also help add variety to your presentation, thus making it more interesting. In this last image, I use again a one-point perspective to have balance. Position your camera on a height of 80 centimeters to 1 meter. This offers a more pleasing perspective, rather than a top-down view. From this position, the viewer can admire the furniture and floors. I again adjust the settings according on this particular image. I want the sunlight crossing a little bit on my floor and furnitures. It will give a softer and warmness on the final output. For post-production in Photoshop, we are just going to add 3 easy effects. First is the contrast, second is the sharpness, and the last is camera raw filter. Just follow this easy workflow. It will make your output more interesting and the details pop up more. This is the final color scheme summary output distribution. Do not forget to click like and subscribe.